Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML, and we are continuing on part 4 of 5 on our favorite book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And, I will have Chris tell you what the part 4 is.
Yeah, so part 4, actually, as I was reading it, it's very similar to part 3 with the sharpen the saw for daily renewal and balance, but these two things kind of go hand in hand a little bit. I felt they were worthy of their own separate reflections, but this particular reflection is about always remember to put first things first in everything you do in your everyday life. You know, real fast, we'll just set the stage here of what is putting first things first in your life. If there's one thing that I could ever principle, and True and Snow probably as well will echo this. If there's one principle from this whole entire journey that you could take to immediately apply to your life, I would say it would be this. And always
I agree with that.
Right. It's kind of everything really at this point in time.
Yeah, I think this is the genesis of all of the concept that is described in this book.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. This is the first. Well, here, let me backtrack and we'll describe what the first things, putting first things first means based off of the book, right? So the author, Dr. Covey, breaks the urgency and importance into 4 categories: Quad 1, Quad 2, Quad 3, and Quad 4. Quad 1 on the urgency and importance axis are the urgent and important activities. So think of those as like, your boss sends you an email, or the furnace guy is calling because your furnace is out and you got to take the dog to the vet. Those things that are urgent, they need to get done. Quad 2 is not urgent, but important activities. And this is the putting first things first category. So these are things that you want to do, but you never have time to do. These are things that don't really have natural urgency behind them. I think of things like learning every day, or taking a walk with your family out in nature, or eating healthy, or you name it. It's those things that you really want to do, but they always get thrown on the back burner because you're like, I just don't have time to do that today. I'd love to, but I don't have time. So that's the first category. And Quad 3 are urgent but not important activities. I can't think of a great example. And you guys have a good example?
Like someone sends you a text message or something, you feel like you have to reply right away.
Exactly. That's a great one. Or Facebook notification. I think that's really where the social media notifications and unimportant messages come into your life. And then Quad 4 is not urgent and not important. So that's just like total waste of your time. That's I don't even know, watching the news. I mean, that's the best example that I can think of when I think of not urgent and not important. Do you guys have any other good not urgent, not important examples?
Just sit around and fiddle with your thumb.
Well,
or like doing things that really aren't that good for you, like whether it's drinking too much or eating too much or something, or just anything that's not even good for you.
So like if pleasure has a purpose, like I'm okay with that. But like you're saying, like just like for straight up indulgence, like I'm gonna go get my third latte of the day at Starbucks, for
exactly
or whatever. And it's like, this making time for that is stupid, that's not urgent and not important. So anyway, so that's the 4 quadrants. I think we all, everybody on this call knows what that means. And I think everybody in their heart of hearts understands that concept at its core. These are the activities that I say that I really want to do. These are the things that I say that align to my values. These are the things that I say that are, important to my life, but I just, can never find time to get them done. Exercising, whatever it may be, right? Like, I mean, you name it, like those are the first things first. I would say personally, as we've talked about in the first 3 reflections of this one, knowing that I read this book the first time in February of 2020, and that was the month before my daughter was born, and kind of my whole life changed in a lot of ways. I would say in that time of my life, most of my day was probably dominated by Quad 1 activities. I mean, I'm really good at Quad 1 activities. I love tasks. I love being on the ball. I love getting things done that are important things, but maybe not necessarily toward a purpose, but I just love getting things done. In my previous life before this one, that was probably my passion, honestly. I mean, I didn't even care what they were. If somebody told me they were important and they needed to get done, I did it. The rest of the breakdown would probably be 2% Quad 2 activities, 5% Quad 3, and probably 3% Quad 4 or something along those lines. I would say it's pretty safe to say that as we talked about before, I lived a pretty unbalanced life before my daughter was born. And I'm saying that in retrospect as well. Once again, I wasn't unhappy. I'm just doing this in reflection and seeing my life through a different paradigm, I guess, at this point in time. So that said, as we talked about in the previous reflection of Sharpen the Saw Daily, when my daughter was born, something inside of me, all the urgent, important activities, it just went away. It didn't matter anymore. I didn't care about my boss's emails. I didn't care about work stuff. I didn't care about life stuff. All I cared about was my daughter, and I cared about being there for her every single day. And I knew instinctively, I don't know where it came from, but I just knew instinctively, like, I have to put first things first every single day just to be able to show up and be balanced for her, like we talked about in the previous reflection of sharpening the saw daily. So that forced me to put that just focus on my life. So in a weird way, it actually became like an urgent and important activity was my quad 2 activities. So it was kind of like this weird blend when a stressor, high pressure situation happens, like, those were my quad 2 activities. They became my quad 1 activities that I was like, I just knew this needed to happen. Well, unfortunately, obviously, you guys know the whole story around my daughter passing away. And after she passed away, I felt at that point in time in my life that I needed to pick up the flag from what she showed me. And I was like, I owe it to her at this point in time to continue on with what I was doing with her and the NICU, to honor her and try to do the best to be the best person I could possibly be. So that's what really kickstarted off this whole entire year magical learning journey of trying to honor my promise that I made to my daughter, of always trying to put those quad 2 now that they were not urgent but important activities that I knew how important they were after watching her life, that they shifted from quad 1 over to quad 2. And I did my best to try to honor the promise to my daughter, to honor that every single day. As you guys know, you're on this call today. It's been a couple of years now where that is my life at this point in time. Those quad 2 activities became my values. Every single thing that I do these days revolves around putting quad 2 activities and those first things first activities always first in my life. Not even like first as in they get done every day. Like, they're literally the first things that I do every single day. I can't have a great day unless those quad 2 activities are done. And I can't feel like I'm honoring the promise to my daughter until those quad 2 activities are done. And I'm not ever going to stop, because that would mean I lost my daughter again. This is my way of honoring her life. And this is my way of spending time with her. And this is my way of remembering her. And this is my way of still staying in that connection with her. And for me, the quad 2 activities are my life, I guess, going forward at this point in time. So that's the reflection overall. I'd love to pause there, get your guys' thoughts on what are quad 2 activities, putting first things first in your life. What does this concept mean to you?
So,
Phil, what do you think?
Okay, so for me, I think I am. I think I want to clarify that the quadrant itself. It's just basically 4 quadrant in our life, and there's no way around it. And it's either it's important or it's not important, and it's urgent or it's not urgent. And first things first means you want to spend your time in quadrant 2, right? Because quadrant 1, it's just not fun. It's stressful. And for me,
I mean, for some people it could be fun, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know about urgency. I mean, yes, I'm saying there are people. I can't say no one is, but most people aren't. And I think our audience would agree that they don't want to be in the extremity of these oddballs that is enjoying the urgency, the emergency of whatever. To me, that isn't what Stephen Covey has in mind when he say first things first. As far as what I understand from the book, it's first things first means spending your time in quadrant 2, meaning doing the things that is important but not urgent. Because if you don't do things that is important and not urgent, it will become quadrant 1, which is important and urgent. So if you say, I'm not going to eat healthy, well, when you're really sick, you're going to have to eat healthy. There's nothing else you can eat, because everything you eat is, it's going to be poison for you. Look at John D. Rockefeller, right? He can't eat anything other than water and some sort of bland, like oatmeal or whatever. That's all he can eat. He can throw parties for everybody and he can do all that, but he can't eat nothing other than water and plain bread or something like that. That's what I'm talking about. That's when it's become urgent and important to eat healthy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, you don't want to be in quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 will come. Yes, you're gonna have to take care of quadrant 1 because it's urgent and it's important. So you have to take care of no matter what. But if you take care of quadrant 2, spend more time on quadrant 2 when you can, then you're going to reduce the number of things in quadrant 1. If you don't do quadrant 2, you're gonna have a plethora of things gonna show up in quadrant 1, and you're gonna be in a stress mode. You're gonna be in a panic mode, in a crisis mode, right? And the other quadrant we don't want to mention just because it's unimportant.
Right.
So for me, is I'm not like Chris. I'm not very, very task oriented. I do what I feel like, but it's to me, what I see, it's worse than his, because in my quadrant one, I probably do maybe 20, 30%. Okay. In quadrant two, I do probably 10%. I spend so much time in quadrant three and four in the unimportant stuff, right? Yeah, whether you binge Netflix, right, which is quadrant four, right? You're not learning anything, but you spend so much time on it. Looking at quadrant four, I would say close to the majority of my time will be in quadrant four, and then the other remainder is going to be in quadrant three. So it's going to be dominated by quadrant three and four on the unimportant things. I'm not learning anything new. I'm not improving myself. I'm not getting healthier, right? Until quadrant one shows up. And then I read this book. Now I understand what first thing first means. And so for me is I'm flipping that now, that I'm reducing drastically my quadrant three and four. Right now, I would do like less than 10% of quadrant three and four. Most of my activities are always going to be in quadrant two, like you say. I would say 60 to 80% of my time would be in quadrant two. The other ones are some of them in quadrant one, which is fortunate for me, is I don't have too many quadrant one at the moment, that's why I think my happy days or my perfect days is a normal every day, because my quadrant one isn't as elevated. I don't run for trains. That's one of the saying that you and I both embrace. We don't run for trains. That's why I don't have a lot of quadrant one. But I do have some quadrant three, right, and four, like text messages or whatever. And even then, that's very low. I'm talking about 1%, 5%. I don't want people to get to my point and hit a brick wall, have a midlife crisis, and starting to see this and looking at this book and say, hey, okay, I should have this book a long time ago. So so for me is the reflection title. I say always remember to put four things first in your life every day. I would say eliminate the always to remember. Just put first things first.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Just put first things first, and that's what you should do. Because I think, and then go back to the question is say, what would your life look like if you live the first thing first principle in as much as you can every day? To me, it's going to have a whole lot of peace and enjoyment in what I do.
It's aligning with your values and what you care about and the activities that you do, that you're spending your time. I mean, that's what it would look like to me. That's what it looks like to me. It's meaning.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's a meaningful existence to do the things that you want to do that you don't have to do.
Yes. A painter must paint, a writer must write, a beaver must dam. And I feel like I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
That's what I see. If I'm continue on doing the quadrant two, 60 to 80 to 90% of my time in quadrant one, that is what I'm looking at. That is what I'm seeing as far as progress. And that's what I expect to see further down the line as well, because it gives me peace and anchor in my life. I have the ability to be my own self, to be free from influences, to be free from running from the stress, from all the external pressure, all the stimuli. I can reject the stimuli of my environment.
Love it.
If you do not, things will creep into your important and urgency quadrant one, if you ignore quadrant two. And I just really like that metaphor or analogy about how they do creep in there. And it is kind of interesting how you can almost break down all your actions or even thoughts. Because I wonder if actually this is just with actions or this is also with thoughts. But let's talk about actions first. It's like how you can break down your actions into these four quadrants. And I guess it's just kind of like a binary system, though. Either it's urgent or not, or it's important or it's not. And it really comes down to what you value, though. I think one thing, it comes down to what you value, but also what you're really trying to get out of something. Not necessarily binge watching Netflix is maybe not necessarily a bad idea. It depends like your intention about it. Maybe it's like some show that you're into for your career or something, and you're like analyzing and getting a lot out of it. But I think that quadrant 4 there is just, yeah, when it's like you're really just trying to zone out almost. And a lot of times I think people like to zone out because they are overwhelmed by life, not sure how to like get a handle on it. There's too many things going on in quadrant 1. And so like, there's a lot going on in quadrant 1. All you want to do is jump to quadrant 4 and maybe, that's happy hour with friends and drinking and pizza and really not like taking care of yourself. But I think it changes as we age though, guys, in terms of, maybe at certain points in our life, just being social and hanging out or whatever is more valuable.
I don't disagree.
And I don't see. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I'm just kind of like talking about whatever thoughts come up right now. And I think that I've finished reading this mastery book by Robert Greene, and in terms of putting first things first, he just talks about like, yeah, make sure you really like have a vocation and you're really into what you're doing. And I think that if you have that passion and that drive, you're probably going to be doing some important and urgency thing, and you're going to be doing some important non-urgency thing. But like Trio said, let's not even talk about 3 and 4, because like, what's the point of doing them if it's not important, And so I think a life that is lived towards really fulfilling on one's purpose is pretty much, I mean, sure, we're going to slip into, let's say 3 and 4, but pretty much 90% should be in 1 or 2. And at certain points, it might fluctuate depending on where things are at, what you're working on. But I think we can all agree that, like, yeah, we should be. And I think like, also Trio kind of mentioned too, like easy and like less stressful days are really those days where we're like in quadrant 2, we're building ourselves, but there's not a lot coming up. And sometimes those are those like sharpen the saw days, or maybe like those Sundays where, no, I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm just like kind of with myself. I'm taking care of myself. And sometimes we need to do that to like not have those, because urgency things can really distract you and kind of get you into your emotions. And so it's important to take time, whether that's in nature or something, to kind of like ground yourself, so you really can step back and not let those urgency situations throw you off and make you want to jump to quadrant 4.
I agree with you. Rest can be important. Rest can be a quad 2 activity. Zoning out can be a quad 2 activity. I think whatever you do just needs to have intention and purpose behind it, and a value behind it as to why you're doing it. Because I got nothing else better to do, and there's just no design behind it. Like that's when it becomes a quad 4 activity, right? I mean, if it was like, look, Sunday, I need to rest. I need my body to recover. I need to sit here. I need to force myself to sit here and watch Tiger King all day long, because I can't do what I need to do unless I'm able to give my body time to rest or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think it does. I think it really does depend on, for me, what you do. As long as it has an intention behind it, it has a purpose behind it, it aligns to your goals and your mission, and then it becomes a quad 2 activity. The second thing that I wanted to point or comment on is, I have a perfect example going on in my life right now, right this very second. I could have easily skipped this conversation, and I'll explain why. Our AC went out in our house right now, right? I mean, it is so freaking hot.
You do look sweaty.
Dude, it's not sweat. It's just like, it's so humid in here that I'm like glistening. I have like 9 fans blasting on me right now. I have this external AC unit in this room going because it's so damn hot in here. Well, so I was putting Luca to bed after I got back from this tennis match, and this has been like this for the past like 3 days. Our home warranty company, I'm dealing with them. They're going to replace our outdoor unit, which is great, but it's going to take time for it to happen. And it's like 95 degrees in Indy right now. It's so damn hot. And I was putting Luca to bed. I had like 3 fans blowing on his thing, his ceiling fan in his room going. It still feels like it's 90 degrees in here. I can't have my son sleeping in this environment. It's so humid, it's sticky. I told my wife, we got to go down to my parents' house or go to a hotel room or something. I was like, we cannot stay in this house tonight for his sake. If it was just us, I'd be okay with it. But I was like, he is just so, hot right now, and this was 20 minutes before our conversation. And I'm like, okay, he needs to go to bed. We need to get his shit packed up. Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh, I had this call. And my wife looked at me and she goes, you need to skip it. And I go, no, I'm not going to skip it because this is important to me. I was like, look, I'll get everything loaded up in the car, get it all put together. I'll ship you off with him. He can go to bed. I'll get the dog. I'll be down there in an hour after we're done or whatever, because this is important to me. This is a first things first activity. I could have absolutely just 100% said, this is not happening tonight, like any normal circumstance, but this is the promise that I made to my daughter. This is the life that I live now. Like, this is what's important for me to do. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It was a good example to give of
That's a
today.
great example.
Right.
Yeah, because we're talking about, the important, right? Important is always subjective, because what's important to me is not important to you. And so to say for me to binge Netflix is I don't learn anything, but to other people, they may be learning something because it applies to them.
Maybe they're a film
So
director.
you can't ask a fox to go build a dam like a beaver does, because to a fox, building a dam would be quad 4, right? But for a beaver, building a dam is quad 2 for him. And so
That's
it's
a
going
good
to be
example.
subjective, right? And so I think we always, and you mentioned that I guess our values and our life changes, and that's fine. But as long as you feel that it's important, and what Chris was saying is you have to force yourself to take risk, or you force yourself to something that's for you. The intent makes that important, and if you spend that time in those quadrants that you feel important, that makes you feel like you are doing things you're supposed to do. You feel like you fulfill, you feel like you're at peace with yourself.
Do you think that these quadrants can be related to thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean,
How
reflection
so?
time for me is quad 2. I mean, like 100%.
Well,
100%.
that's like reflection time. That's kind of almost like an activity though, like reflection time, but like our mental thoughts. I mean, and I don't know the answer, so I'm wondering, like, yeah, can actually our way of thinking be in these? Can our certain thoughts be urgent and not important?
Well, here, let me ask you this question: when do you have time to be creative?
When do I have time to be creative? I guess when there's not anything urgent going on. Or well, no, sometimes not. Sometimes you end up being creative when there is something like an urgency that needs to take place.
Sure. I mean, I would say for most people, spending time to be having to open up your imagination, just to imagine or to be creative or whatever, is a not urgent but important activity. 100%. Like just spending time back to think and reflect and and use your imagination and walk in nature and whatever, and just get with your thoughts, whatever it may be. Like, I mean, 100%. Like that could easily be categorized for some people as a quad 2 activity that they never find time to do. All their thoughts are consumed. I mean, I don't want to hate on my wife or anything like that, but my wife, like, she is consumed by her job and my son. Like, I mean, if I try to talk to her about other things, like that's all that she can think about when it comes to like just her own mental time to reflect. Like, I mean, I try to push her to into that quad 2 time of like, just go do whatever you got to go do and go take time for. But it's like, it's hard for a lot of people to disengage with their thoughts around the urgent, important activities that are going on in their life. So I totally agree. Thoughts absolutely can be aligned to these things.
Exactly. To me, it's not only could be, but I think they have to, because a lot of people have a lot of mental stress, right? A lot of people have mental stress nowadays because they don't take time to think about what's important to them. And that's the problem where we see when we start a company, is because people don't even stop for a second to think about the things they're doing. Is this what I wanted to do? No one's asking themselves that question, even though it's very obvious, because society is always pushing you to do this, or say, hey, you must behave in this way, you must be PC, or you must be whatever. And the thing is, when we look at the female counterparts, right, they are very, very in tune to the environment, because they are very sensitive to the emotions. So it's harder for them to even take time for themselves out, because they just couldn't do it. It goes against their emotions. So it takes a tremendous amount of effort for the women to do what we ask them to do. And so for your wife, you're going to have to maybe nurture little by little, but it's hard for her to even say, even if you say, hey, Luca is fine or whatever, and you should take your time to rest, she's still going to be worried. It's just that's just the way she is built, right? And that's how most women do. So right, but that's what I'm saying is it's different. And so for different people, the importance and the feeling of protectiveness, whatever, that's important to them. And when they do that, that becomes quadrant 2 for them, even though they don't take time out for themselves, because there's always pros and cons. Right. And like I said, we need to have the ability to take time out and reflect and think about things, right? You need to think about it, because that only gives you the ability to recognize what aligns and what doesn't align. And only then can you be able to carry on the activities that is intentful. If you don't, then you just stumble around randomly until you find something that feels good, but it may not hit. And so that's what I'm saying is I think having the ability to take time out regularly to spend time thinking about stuff and to be in your own thought is very crucial because like I say, I see so much more mental illness nowadays in our world than before. And so people are suffering. They're suffering mentally and then physically. Because I said before, if your mental is not clear, how can you be creative when you're stressed out? You can't do good work when you are stressed out. Just like
you can't do meaningful work at all.
Right.
Like it's impossible if you're stressed out.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that's why I say, well, for me, I like to be in quadrant 2, like 100% of the time if I can. Quadrant 1 is because I had to, but when I'm in quadrant 1, I can only react to it. I can't respond to things. I can't choose because I don't have options. I can't choose what's most creative.
It's kind of interesting about the whole thought question around, can you structure your thoughts in this? The more that I even think about it, actually, that might be the problem, is that people don't structure their thoughts around it, because that's what we've discovered in the quest, right? That's the whole point of the quest, is to give you time to think about what's important to you in your life. I don't even know that if you ask somebody what's a quad 2 activity, if you just randomly stop somebody in the street and explain them the 4 quadrants or whatever, and was like, hey, what are some urgent, not important activities? I don't even know that some people would even go, I don't know what I like to do. You know what I mean? I don't know like what's important to me. Work is important to me, but you're gonna know that's an urgent activity. I don't even know that people even know. And that's the whole entire problem at the end of the day. That's the origin of all this, is they don't, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you're exactly right. Just because you don't think about it, there's nothing for you to align yourself with. And there's no intent in doing that. So you just basically let somebody else drive your life.
You're kind of on that autopilot, which is very easy, I think, to get on for people who haven't stepped back and really defined their own path. And yet some people are happy with that. You know what I mean?
So I don't think this is necessarily about happiness or not. I wasn't unhappy in my life
Yeah,
before.
you're right.
Like, I don't think this is about happiness. I think this is about meaning and living a purposeful life. Like I didn't live a purpose-driven life.
It's not about happiness. It's about living well. But in the end, I think it's about really like achieving the best for yourself and not ending your life feeling like, oh, I wish I could have done more. Knowing, hey, life is going to end, and having more of a clear purpose about what you want to fulfill. Because I think if you don't create intentions and you don't try to fulfill them to the 100% of your abilities, then I think you become envious about others who have done that, and you feel a little bit more depressed.
So to me, it's at the end of the day, it's about regrets, right? If you're talking about at your last day on earth, you say, well, I wish I can spend extra time working on this project or working on something at work, or to get extra money, or to watch an additional episode of some show. No one asked for that. No one say, well, I wish I can do that. There are certain things that is important to them because of how they are made. They say, well, I would like to visit more countries because they want to experience some more stuff. Whatever they made, whatever that they need to fulfill, or the mission they're quote unquote supposed to be given, they need to complete the mission.
Yeah.
If they can do that, then they can say, well, I'm done. I can leave without regrets, without having some sort of depressed attachment to something unfinished. Because so at the end of the day, it's about fulfilling your promise or your goal as that entity. Like I say, a painter must paint, right?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to go swim or anything. I'm asking you to paint because you're born to be a painter. That's your quote unquote mission. And if you fulfill the mission, you don't feel regret leaving life. But if you don't.
Go ahead, Snow.
No, if you don't, no, finish that.
So if you don't, and then you always gonna say, I regret it. I wanted to do this, but I couldn't. So you have regret. The fact of having that regret is the purpose of living a meaningful life. It's not about happiness in a sense that, oh, I feel joy because of this or that. A lot of times it's hard to explain because of the words that we have. And the words that we have been used for many different things and become jaded in a way. So it's hard to explain the meaning of it. But it isn't about happiness per se. It's about having that at the end of the day that I am content to leave the world because I've done what I needed to do.
Which you can call that happiness if you want to.
I think they are different, and I think like happiness can come from many different ways, but I think that, yeah, no, I mean, because it's like, what I'm trying to do now with, building the school farm for New Roots, like I've already come up against a couple hiccups and, really got like not chewed out by my boss and colleagues today, but, been doing some mistakes they've been happy with. So in terms of like, it'd be easier just to not do it actually. Like, fuck it, no, actually, I don't want to do this. But I do want to do it, but it'd be easier to not do.
So at the
but
end of the
I wouldn't feel fulfilled by giving it up, and I'm not going to be fulfilled until I give it my best shot.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying is at the end of the day, like when you say, well, okay, I'm about to leave life, right? And I need to go. So you look at the decisions. Do I do it or do I don't do it? Is it worth it to do it? Or is it too much of a headache to do? Do you wait that important it applies to you only because that's your decisions. And you imagine yourself at the end of your life, you say, well, I was at a crossroad. I have to make decisions to continue to get the reward I want, but I have to deal with these nuance and these errors or these mistakes, right? Should I do it or should I do it? At the end of the day, would you regret not doing it? So
It reminds me of
if you regret not doing it, then it is important to you.
It reminds me of that book, the reflection from the book Thirst, the one about the water charity, where he said, "Don't be afraid of work that does not end." Like if this is important to you, if this is meaningful to you, like it is what it is. Whether it works out whether it works out over the course of who cares? Don't be afraid of work that doesn't end. This is meaningful. This is purposeful. If it is for you.
And there's in that mastery book they talked about how easy it is to not fulfill on these kind of individual missions that we should all end up having. Everyone should really end up having, not just certain people, and people can become masters in their own life, in their own fields, but a lot of it's just like societal pressures about like conforming, because we do have a strong niche or a strong desire to conform, like from our species and from the way we adapted. But I don't think that'll ever go away, but it's like if we created more of a culture of conforming around individuals becoming their best version of themselves rather than conformism about being in quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. You know what I mean? Like work, urgent, and then all right, relax, take a break.
Snow, that's literally clubbing. You just described clubbing. Culture built around first things first activities. Like that's exactly when we're gonna pay people to literally just do first things first activities and create meaningful work out of that, and whatever comes of that. I mean, the theory is whatever comes of that will far and away trump anything of economic value you could ever produce, because when you produce something of meaning, it matters to somebody. And
that's what you're trying to do with Clubany, is to make sure is to get people to to take on this path or whatever, define the purpose and have them give back to society. Because I think that's in terms of like becoming a master, a lot of it is actually just like finding a way for you to express yourself, because we all have this longing, this desire to express ourselves, and but art. It can be challenging.
It's really challenging. I mean, that's your art. It's like Drew said, beaver must dam. They gotta go chop down wood. If you told a beaver to go do what a fox does or a wolf, like they'd be like, I don't know, I'm miserable. Like I don't want to do this. Like, or can you imagine a wolf having a dam all day long? They'd be like, this sucks.
Yeah, he probably can only swim like for 15 minutes. Beaver can swim all day long and he enjoys it. Not I almost want to go in the mud. But that's the thing, is everyone has their own unique build that they are fitted for.
But so
different missions.
It's to your point, it feels like cultures are only built around you either do our values and everybody does these values and you take that on yourself and that's it. Or you go just be completely individualistic and you're like a freelancer at this point in time and you have no culture, but you're your own purpose-driven entity, right? The combo of the two is what we're trying to do here, is be an individual, live your values, live your first things first principles, but still have other people around you that feel the same way, that do the same thing. And then when you guys overlap on whatever those meaningful work activities may be,
then it's great.
Then it becomes meaningful relationships around that meaningful work as well. And then all of a sudden you're happy.
So Clubany, it's a club of values and purpose. It's about whatever. I forget how you broke it down before, but I mean it's just sometimes I like to just come back to like companies. They have like purpose-driven values.
People
On
living
your
purpose-driven lives,
quest, you know.
living their values.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Yeah,
purpose-driven lives.
people people living purpose-driven lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's why you would like that book Mastery by Robert Greene.
Well, I will
But
check
it's
it
pretty
out.
much all it's pretty much all about that.
I got
all about
130
it.
books left to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give it a go. Why not? Who cares?
That's what I'm gonna fill out my book report on, and then I'm gonna read. I'm not sure what book I'm gonna read
Yeah.
next. So
I'm going to offer this to you as a celebrity guest on the Year of Magical Learning podcast. If you start writing some of your own reflections, we'll throw them on here as an Aaron Snow reflection. And
totally.
You can lead the discussion, and we'll put it on the blog, and I'll throw it in the book when the book's done.
Awesome. So guys, hey, it's getting late here. I gotta get going.
I gotta get down to my parents' house, sleep in
Yeah.
DC. Awesome.
Lily's just checking
thanks
her
for
watch here. So yeah.
Well, she's already. Luke is asleep. That's all that really mattered. She didn't care about me.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining. And the question we can leave with everybody is what would your life look like if you put first things first, and as much
as
you have
much
today,
as
something
you
to think
can
about?
get.
Yeah.
Yep. See you tomorrow. Later.
Good job, Trio. Good job. I think